Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. I'm Princess Abiba Saripaudak. Welcome to Balitang Pambansa. Tonight's headlines. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLC, says that the eruption of Kanlaon volcano may happen again, especially since it is still under alert level 3. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. orders all concerned government agencies to ensure that all necessary assistance is immediately provided to those affected by the eruption of the Kanlaon volcano. The administration's senatorial bets continued their respective efforts to win over voters to ultimately earn themselves seats to the upper chamber. We got your backs, the short and sweet message of the President and his team to the people of the affected areas around Mount Kanlaon in the aftermath of her explosive discharge of ash and volcanic debris earlier this morning. In addition, the President instructed his disaster response and social services team to act with dispatch in providing relief to the affected inhabitants and residents around the volcano. Our Kenneth Paciente tells us more.
Swift assistance, that is what President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. wants following the eruption of Mount Kanlaon. That is why the palace has ensured a whole-of-government approach in responding to the calamity. According to PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro, the relevant government agencies are now on alert. In fact, the DSWD is already focused on the situation by preparing family food packs for families living in the affected areas.
Patuloy pa rin po ang binibigay ng serbisyo po, ayon na rin sa direktiba ng ating Pangulo. Ang DSWD po ay hanggang sa ngayon po, ngayong April 8 ay sinabi po na ang field offices po sa Western and Central Visayas ay closely coordinating po sa mga affected local government units. At patuloy pa rin po ang pagbibigay ng mga provisions of family food packs and non-food items sa ating mga kababayan na naaapektuhan.
The health department also reminded residents near the volcano to wear masks and clothing that protects their skin from volcanic ash, which the agency says is dangerous. Residents are also encouraged to coordinate with them to address any emergency situation. Meanwhile, the Canlaon city government has issued an advisory prohibiting entry into the 6-kilometer danger zone around the volcano for their safety, especially since the volcano remains at alert level 3. The palace also assured that the government is ready in case additional funds are needed for the area's local government.
Kung kinakailangan po, ito po titignan po mabuti kung ano po ang pangangailangan ng mga LGUs at agad-agad pong bibigyan po ito ng tulong.
Some areas have also suspended classes and work due to the ash fall. However, there have been no reported injuries following the volcanic activity. From PTV Manila, Kenneth Paciente, Balitang Pambansa.
A moderately explosive eruption of Negros Occidental's Kanlaon volcano occurred earlier today. Although alert level 3 remains in place, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or the PHIVOLC, warned the public that the volcano may still produce similar short-lived explosive eruptions or escalate into lava eruptions that could generate lava flows and lava fountaining. Later on, PTV's Rod Lagusat bringing us the latest on this situation.
There is a possibility the eruption of Kanlaon volcano may recur, similar to the one that happened earlier this morning, which lasted nearly an hour, where its plume reached up to 4 kilometers. This is among the scenarios being monitored by PHIVOLC, especially since the volcano remains at alert level 3.
Ang possible scenario natin dito would be, kasi parang nagbukas ka ng coke niyan eh. Kapag yung coke nabuksan mo na, yung gas bubbles would freely go out. So, yun yung dire-diretso na. So, yun yung sana hindi mangyari. Magkakaroon tayo ng explosive eruption. Mabilis na pag-akyat ng magma o di kaya nababarahan ang conduit nito na magre-resulta sa isang malakas na pagsabog.
Which could lead to pyroclastic density current, ashfall, and other hazards, and if this happens, the alert level could be raised to alert level 4. Another scenario involves the slow ascent of magma, which would flow out of the crater as seen in the past eruptions of Ngayon volcano. Alternatively, the magma movement could stop and the volcano could be downgraded to alert level 2. According to PHIVOX, this should not be considered a major eruption but rather an explosive eruption, which was triggered by decreased sulfur dioxide emissions and volcanic earthquakes.
This one would signify na may pressure na naipon sa ilalim kaya hindi makalabas yung sulfur dioxide natin, biglang bagsak. And sa kalaunan, hindi nakayanan yung pressure kaya nagkaroon tayo ng pagsabog.
Ashfall was reported in the cities of La Carlota, Bagong, and La Castellana in Negros Occidental. Due to the volcanic eruption, a grass fire occurred on the eastern side of Kanlaon volcano. As a result, the Office of Civil Defense is preparing for the possibility of raising Kanlaon's alert level to 4. If this occurs, the danger zone could extend up to 10 kilometers.
That will translate to an additional, based on yung reports, matadagdagan ng additional at least 9,000 families should be evacuated. That will translate to around 90,000 individuals.
He estimated that half of them would go to evacuation centers, which are part of their preparations. In line with this, some LGUs are ready to shelter evacuees while relief goods and security measures are also put in place. Meanwhile, due to the eruption, the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines has issued a notice to airmen for flights near the volcano, which will be in effect until 5:51 a.m. tomorrow. Flight operations are advised to avoid flying near the volcano.
From PTV Manila, Rod Lugusad, Balitang Pambansa.
The country's biggest and busiest public hospital is getting a much-needed shot in the arm when its request for strengthened or expanded capacity was promptly heeded by the government. At least 1,200 new medical and staff support positions will have to be filled out, half of which this year and the rest of the year, or the rest spread over the next 2 years, as we hear more from these details from Floyd Brands.
Senior citizen Lola Lisa could not afford breast cancer treatment at the private hospital near her area. This prompted her to seek medical help at the Philippine General Hospital, thanks to the doctors and the services offered by PGH. Her condition is reportedly improving without the need for large expenses.
Sabi nila mga 1.8 million ang gastusin.
Opo. Pero
Dito free lang, sa BCC, free. Oh, chemotherapy, surgery, biopsy, lahat.
Despite coming all the way from Cavite and facing long quests at PGH, Lola Lisa remains patient and determined.
Kulang ang tao talaga. Talagang maaga kang magising, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, tapos pipila ka, magtiis ka, kasi naniwala ka sa mga serbisyo dito sa PGH.
To provide faster and better quality healthcare services, the Department of Budget and Management under the leadership of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has approved the creation of over 1,200 additional positions at the Philippine General Hospital. These positions will include medical, allied medical, and support staff roles. The PGH is the country's largest government hospital, serving over 600,000 patients annually. It also functions as the only national referral center for tertiary care, the primary hospital for treating complicated illnesses.
At sa direktiba na po ng ating Pangulo, si Pangulong Marcos Jr., na matagdagan pa po ang maaaring maging manpower, ang maaaring magsilbi sa nasabing ospital para mas marami pa pong Pilipino ang mabibigyan ng magandang serbisyo. Napakarami pong mga Pilipino ang talagang pumupunta sa PGH dahil po ito'y nakakapagbigay ng magandang serbisyo at maaari pong napakaliit ng kanilang babayaran kapag po sila ay pumunta sa PGH.
The staffing expansion will be implemented in 4 tranches starting in the 3rd quarter of 2025. Meanwhile, Malacanang also assures the country in holding job fairs to help sustain the country's growing employment rate.
Itutuloy-tuloy po natin yan dahil meron naman din po tayong programa para sa mga hiring ng mga employees ng ating mga kababayan, especially meron pong programa para doon sa mga 4-piece beneficiaries na makakuha ng on-the-spot hiring.
According to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, the number of employed Filipinos rose to 49.15 million in February, slightly higher than the 48.49 million recorded in January. This, official says, indicates that government efforts are bearing fruit. From PTV Manila, Floyd Brenz, Balitang Pambansa.
The palace expects a boost in the tourism and business sectors of the country following the launch of direct flights from Canada to Manila. The new route, which currently operates 3 times a week, is set to increase in frequency by May. The government estimates that the direct flights could bring in around 57,000 tourists annually. The route will also offer more convenient travel for both tourists and Filipino Canadians visiting the country because of the travel time from Vancouver to Manila will now be reduced from the previous 20 hours to just 12 to 14 hours. From January to April 3 this year, over 1.6 million foreign tourists have visited the Philippines, 91,000 of whom came from Canada. Meanwhile, the palace warned against misusing the emergency cell broadcasting system.
Talaga pong mas nanaisin po natin ang direct flight. At dahil dito, mas maraming pong turista mula sa nasabing bansa ang maaari nating i-expect na makarating sa Pilipinas dahil sa napakagandang pagkakataong ito na magkakaroon na po ng Canadian Airlines na diretsong pupunta sa Pilipinas at tayo din po ay diretso papuntang Canada. So maganda po ito para sa ekonomiya ng dalawang bansa.
On the other news, the palace warned against misusing the emergency cell broadcasting system or the ECBS for political campaigning, stressing it should only be used for disaster alerts. The Department of Information and Communications Technology or the DICT is investigating the misuse of the system, which violates several laws. The Office of Civil Defense or OCD also condemned this as it could cause confusion during real emergencies. Meanwhile, legal actions will be taken against violators. On the other news, the number of unemployed Filipinos decreased from 2.16 million to 1.94 million, and the underemployment rate dropped from 12.4% to 10.1% in February 2025. Full-time jobs, middle and high-level professions, and regular employees also increases. The growth is attributed to government's efforts in foreign investments, business growth, and infrastructure projects. With the 2025 midterm elections getting closer, senatorial candidates under the administration's Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas coalition are ramping up efforts to win voter support and are actively reaching out to communities. PTV's Daniel Manalastas has the report.
Administration bets from the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas running for Senate seats continued to campaign and woo voters. Former Senator Manny Pacquiao held a meeting with Senate President Cheese Escudero and Senator Joel Villanueva, wherein they tackled how to portray and maintain the Senate as a beacon of hope to the Filipino people. Senator Bong Revilla, meanwhile, went to Capiz this weekend where he was declared adopted son of the province. Senator Francis Tolentino visited Apayao, where he praised the province's exemplary leadership. He noted a good service from the locals is a key to transform the quality of life of Filipinos. Senator Pia Cayetano meanwhile stumped in Navotas City, where she pushed her advocacies on health, education, and women empowerment. The fight against fake news is one of the advocacy that former Senator Panfilo Lacson pushed when he paid the visit to Valenzuela City. Mayor Abby Binay meanwhile appealed for sobriety and patience in light of violent incidents in public schools. Representative Camille Villar over the weekend visited Quezon. She pushed for a balance in addressing agriculture and infrastructure concerns, as well as welfare of OFWs. Representative Erwin Tulfo met with families of persons deprived of liberty. He assured to push welfare for PDLs. Former DILG Secretary Benhur Abalos held a dialogue with the Department of Agriculture, National Food Authority, and local farmers of Nueva Ecija. for his proposed amendments of rice tariffication law, crop assistance, and college scholarship for the farmers' children. The Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas senatorial candidate also calls to restore the selling powers of NFA. From PTV Manila, Daniel Manlastas, Balitang Pambansa.
The Senate Committee on Basic Education discussed incidents of bullying in schools, expressing concern over such incidents, some of which even went viral on social media. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian called for the full implementation of the Good Manners and Right Conduct, or the GMRC, and Values Education Law, stressing that some children have grown up thinking bullying is acceptable. The Department of Education, or DepEd, assures that they would prioritize this issue. During the 4th House Tri-Committee hearing, Meta addressed efforts to combat misinformation and online scams, including removing over 2 million accounts linked to criminal activities. Lawmakers highlighted Meta's lack of office here in the Philippines, complicating accountability. It explained its strategy in managing harmful content and user responsibility. The Tri-Com plans to create new policies to improve social media regulation in the country. On the other news, the Presidential Communications Office beams with pride over the fact that no journalists have been killed in 2024. According to PCO Secretary Jay Ruiz, this can be considered a great success of the Presidential Task Force on Media Security, or the PTFOMS, under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. With the relaunch of the Media Security Vanguards of PTFOMS, the government can assure the protection of journalists, especially during election period. Meanwhile, the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, or NUJP, clarified that though there was no recorded case of the journalists that was killed, news agencies should still do their part in protecting media personnel, especially in supposed hotspots. First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos spearheaded the Lab for All caravan in Teresa, Rizal. According to the First Lady, the program is important as it aims to offer more accessible free services to Filipinos. This is also part of the commitment of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to provide good public service to everyone. The healthcare services provided in the Lab for All program includes free checkup, ultrasound, and X-ray. Following a decline in underemployment recorded in February, the government is doubling down on its commitment to generate high-quality and sustainable jobs for Filipinos. These and other stories in tonight's Business Wrap from the Philippine News Agency.
In our business news, the administration of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. reaffirmed its effort for high-quality jobs, according to the National Economic and Development Authority. This after a drop of the country's underemployment in February this year. The data released by the Philippine Statistics Authority meant that workers seeking additional job dropped to 10.1% in February 2025, an improvement from 12.4% in February 2024. Meanwhile, the country's unemployment rate settled at 3.8%, surpassing the target range of 4.8% to 5.1% for 2025. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the government is committed to fast-track the implementation of project creating high-quality jobs. On the other hand, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reported that the country's gross international reserves, or GIR, slightly dropped to $106.2 billion at the end of March, from $107.4 billion in February this year. The decrease was primarily due to the national government's withdrawal from its foreign currency deposits with the BSP, as well as the foreign exchange operation. Despite the decline, BSP assured that the current level of GIR remains a strong external liquidity buffer equivalent to 7.3 months worth of goods imports, payment services, and primary income. Based on the residual maturity, GIR can also support approximately 3.7 times of the country's short-term foreign debt. That's the latest business news from the Philippine News Agency. This is RB Abaracoso from Balitang Pambansa.
Thank you, PNA. On the other news, former rebels who have surrendered can now avail of locally funded integration programs that offer livelihood and legal assistance packages. This as the National Amnesty Board opened the 11th local amnesty board in the country. Ray Anthony Chu from the Philippine Information Agency, Bohol, tells us more.
The government has presented to former rebels in Bohol the opportunity to avail of a presidential amnesty and have their criminal liabilities erased. This as the National Amnesty Commission opened up in Bohol the 11th local amnesty board in the country. The local amnesty board will accept and process amnesty applications by former rebels who have surrendered to the government. Former rebels who have surrendered can avail of locally funded integration programs that offer livelihood and legal assistance packages for surrenderies.
Sakot ko sa kadawat nga benepisyo ka, yang pasalamat ko sa atong gobernador din sa Bohol. Nga siya naningkamot nga matag ang lokal nga nakapasar sa local declare.
From the Philippine Information Agency in Bohol, Ray Anthony Chu for Balitang Pambansa.
To support local farmers in the country, the National Food Authority intensifies its efforts to stabilize rice prices. This initiative was fully supported by the local government of Cagayan de Oro City. Gabriel Andres from Philippine Information Agency Region 10 has more.
The National Food Authority or NFA is intensifying efforts to support farmers and control rice prices through the Food Security Emergency Declaration. Issued by the Department of Agriculture in February, the declaration allows the NFA to sell rice at 33 pesos per kilo to local government units, helping to stabilize consumer prices while supporting local farmers. According to NFA Administrator Larry R. Lacson, the local government of Cagayan de Oro City has already expressed support for this initiative.
We are committed to providing, selling to the local government units doon sa price ng bigas na 33 pesos per kilo. And I've heard from the reports of the regional manager and the branch manager, yung Cagayan de Oro City naman have signified the intention to buy this 33 peso rice from the National Food Authority para makatulong dito sa food security emergency na ito. And we're glad yung Cagayan de Oro City government is responding. No? Kailangan din namin to, kailangan namin mai-out ang aming mga stock so that we can also buy more palay from our farmers.
The NFA has also streamlined the process for farmers, setting up fast lanes and improving coordination with LGUs for hauling and facilitating market access. This system helps small farmers sell their produce quickly and benefit from higher prices. Lacson also led a price monitoring activity at Kogan Market to ensure that retailers are complying with the 49 pesos per kilo maximum suggested retail price for imported rice. He added that the visit also served as an opportunity for the agency to continue its consultations with farmers and other key stakeholders to stay informed on market trends and address challenges as they arise. From the Philippine Information Agency, Gabriel Andres for Balitang Pambansa.
General Santos Doctors Hospital is set to launch its first kidney transplant program. With this, kidney patients in Region 12 will no longer need to travel long distances for their transplant services. Harlem Ferolino from the Philippine Information Agency, Sergeant, tells us more.
The General Santos Doctors Hospital, in partnership with the National Kidney and Transplant Institute, or the NKTI, is set to launch the first kidney transplant program in Region 12 to enhance access to renal care in Mindanao. The initiative is part of NKTI's transplant caravan, which aims to decentralize medical services and bring life-saving treatments closer to patients in underserved areas, especially those with chronic kidney disease.
But with kidney transplant, you develop independence. No? You don't have to undergo dialysis every week. And you go back to your families and to your communities more productive. No? And you can go back to your usual life. And in short, you can live your life to the fullest.
The program is expected to begin operations by late 2025 or early 2026, with the hospital preparing for full accreditation and support from the Department of Health and PhilHealth.
Medyo critical ang care, very operatively ng mga transplant. So before these are mga nurses in training, mga requirement yan before you can be accredited by BHSF.
Once implemented, the program is expected to significantly enhance the quality of life for kidney patients in the region, as they will no longer need to travel long distances for transplant services. Furthermore, with strong collaboration between the government and hospitals, the initiative represents a major step toward medical advancement in Region 12. From the Philippine Information Agency, Soxer Jen, Harlem Ferolino, Balitang Pambansa.
What a good news. And that concludes our rundown of the latest, widest, and most comprehensive news and information from all across the nation. This is your trusted news source, always ready to inform and serve the Filipino people. Catch Balitang Pambansa again tomorrow at 7 a.m., 12 noon, 6 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. for more updates and developments. From Radyo Pilipinas, I'm Princess Habiba Saripaudak, and this is your Balitang Pambansa.